Hey there, thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode of The Deliberate Zoomer, hosted by myself, Silas Maynor, and my good friend, Michael Simonton. We hope you enjoyed today's episode.
Who?
And bam, we are live, back with another episode of The Deliberate Zoomer with myself, Silas Maynor, and my good friend, Michael Simonton. Today, we are joined by another good friend of mine and somebody who I look up to quite a bit, Garrett Richetto. I met Garrett about a year ago, right? When we went to dinner at the Books.
I think so. That is the first time, which is crazy. So it's not been that long, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, but yeah, again, we're here to talk about today kind of your journey and some of your advice for other people in our age range of how to live their life. So I guess, maybe you want to give us a quick background on yourself and so the audience kind of understands where you're coming from and where you're at.
Totally. So I'll give a short background. I feel like my life has split into a couple different segments because just of how my life journey has gone. But I'm from Wausau, Wisconsin, a very small town in central Wisconsin. I grew up in a pretty standard home, a Christian home. And I've had a very good family background throughout my life, which has been very helpful for me. One thing I really struggled with through schooling as I got a little bit older was I was diagnosed with a pretty strong case of dyslexia, which if people don't know what that is, just basically, I guess what you would say, a learning disability where it's harder to comprehend, read, spell, those kind of things. I mean, at the age of 13, I was actually told that I would most likely not graduate high school and that college was just out of the picture, which looking back at it, I have to attribute like all my success to my parents and a tutor that I had. And obviously I only had that tutor because of my parents, but that really, I think, propelled my journey to a direction that I don't think it would have been propelled otherwise. I mean, fighting through some of this stuff, it really taught me so many different traits that I don't think I'd have, like a strong work ethic. I mean, especially with reading. If I think I had a fourth grade reading level when I was a sophomore in high school. Yeah, I mean, I was struggling with kids' books. It was crazy. But through working with this tutor that I had, I was able to really work that out. And I mean, yes, I still have dyslexia. It's not something that just goes away, as maybe some of you who are listening have it as well. But it is something that I can tell you can cope with fairly easily if you just put the time in. It does take time, perseverance, a lot of hard work. But I mean, I sit here today and it might take me a little bit longer to read something, but other than that, I really don't struggle with it anymore. And it's because of that work ethic. And, then propelling myself forward a little bit, I went to college. I studied chemistry first. I wanted to be a doctor. I decided very quickly that the medical field was not for me and I was not very interested in it. And I started taking accounting classes. And after that, I honestly loved accounting. I got my accounting degree. To become a CPA, you need 150 credits. And when you graduate, you only have about 120 to 125. So I took another semester, got a degree in business management, marketing, and finance, and went to take my CPA. I'm actually in the process of getting my last score back from the CPA. I'm hoping I passed it. I'm ready to be done with that hard test. But that brings me here. And I mean, throughout college, I also was a swimmer, so I was a student athlete. Again, some of these things just taught me a lot, but it really propelled my business mindset exponentially. I mean, I just wouldn't be here without my swimming background and which is crazy to say, but my dyslexic background, just because I know I wouldn't have some of the traits I have right now.
Now, I have to jump in here and ask you, you mentioned that bit there about, being told it was sophomore year, I think you said that you probably wouldn't graduate. And you mentioned that being kind of pivotal. How did that shape the future? Like you mentioned, your work ethic and stuff, but did you have a different mental image or a different future in mind? And then that changed that, or what happened there, and why exactly was that so pivotal for you?
Yeah, well, maybe I misspoke a little bit, but I actually got told that I wouldn't graduate. I think it's already been years, but I think it was sixth or seventh grade. So that's when I actually got told that. Sophomore year, I was still struggling, but I don't think they thought that at that point. But anyways, my parents were actually the ones that were first told, and I never knew that until my freshman year of high school, when things were actually starting to go a lot better. But I do remember hearing that for the first time, and my parents have told me many stories of just like the nights they would have talking about, like, if he doesn't graduate, what is he going to do? And by the way, I don't think you need to graduate to be successful, which I could talk long about that as well. But when I was told by my parents what they had said my freshman year, I do think it definitely awaked something in me, because I've never liked the fact that it took me longer to do things. I'm a person that is very, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe determined, but just doesn't like failure. And let me tell you, I have failed many times down the road. But with this certain thing, I definitely think I honestly really just took it by the heels and went with it. I mean, it's weird to think about now, about almost 10 years later, but looking at, my freshman year self and just thinking to myself, am I going to be able to do this? Will I graduate? And then looking at it now, it is something. And I mean, I haven't mentioned this at all yet, but my relationship with my Savior, Jesus Christ, has definitely played a huge role in that too, because I think there's something greater living for than this world, and being the best possible version of yourself is something that he would want. So that's another critical element in the big puzzle of my life. But yeah, so I mean, really what I can say is I was very devastated when I did hear that, but I didn't let it kick me down for too long. I got back up and really just tried to do whatever I could in high school to succeed.
Gotcha. So just to paraphrase, you took that adversity and you didn't sit there. I mean, I'm sure, you feel bad about it for a second, but like you used that as fuel to and you took that adversity. You didn't let it conquer you. Instead, like you said, you took it by the heels, you grabbed the bull by the horns, and you overcame that monster. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm a big believer in not letting anything get you down for too long. I mean, I'm okay if you have something crazy go on and you gotta take some time to yourself, or just realign your thoughts, figure your life out a little bit. But to dwell on that is something I'm very against, because I think it can put you in a very negative mindset. And if you're in that mindset too long, you just will never get out of that mindset, which I know certain people in my life who have never gotten out of that mindset. And I wouldn't say they had anything super dramatic to put them in that mindset long term, but you just got to be so careful for those little things that come into your life, not to let them get you down, because it's life. You're going to have things that are going to come up, and you're going to have to persevere through them.
Amen, brother. I agree wholeheartedly. Obviously, I mean, that's kind of one of the points with the deliberate Zoomer that this podcast is kind of showcasing how you can take those adversities and overcome them, but also just how to be a deliberate individual, live your 20s with intention. So yeah,
totally.
One thing I want to maybe ask a little bit more about is what kind of fueled your entrepreneurial spirit, because obviously we haven't really talked a lot about your background with entrepreneurship. You've had, it seems to me from our conversations, a number of successful ventures and things that you've built and that were pretty successful. So where did that really start, and how did you develop that? And when did you really take ownership of it to develop it intentionally?
And
yeah,
to
totally.
add one last bit to that, what do you think did college help propel you there, or how did that all play into this? Because entrepreneurial ventures aren't something you see too many people take after college. So how does that all fit in this picture too?
Yeah, that's a great question. Both loaded questions, because man, the college discussion is something that we could go on for hours. But I would say, man, I got the timeline. I would say right after my senior year of high school, I started to really get into just this entrepreneurial mindset. And it's so funny because I was going into college, not even thinking about business, really. I mean, it really wasn't on my mind, but I still love this thought of being an entrepreneur, mostly because my parents own their own store, and just seeing how they make something that they built tick is just something that always really intrigued me and interested me. And although I didn't want to do business full time, it definitely was something that was sparked at a very young age. So I was always thinking about it. My first little venture actually starting was developing a coffee app. And the beginning of this coffee app actually was started my freshman year in college. And it was actually just finished being developed about, 4 weeks ago or something, right before Christmas, which is so crazy. But after that, then my freshman year rolled through. I was not liking chemistry, like I said. I went to the business mindset. And from that point on, some of the professors I had, I did not agree with a lot of what they were telling me. And the biggest thing I didn't agree with was this whole thought of being complacent and working your way up, whether that takes you 5, 10, 15 years, working your way up to be something. And although I don't fully disagree with that in and of itself, I think it can be very deceiving because a lot of what college tells you, I want to be careful how I say this, it is valuable, but it is so skewed to one side. And for example, I mean, one of my classes I took was literally an entrepreneurial class trying to teach you how to start your own startup company, you know? And one of the things they really pounded in that class was getting this good base. And by good base, I mean like having your idea ready to go, having everything in place, and then pitching it and going with it. And I think that's so hard for young people to do, to get everything ready to go and pitch it, because there are so many moving parts when you start whatever you're starting. I mean, there are so many, whether it's in an app, you need to talk to the developers, you need to have literally someone to do art for you. I mean, there's literally so many aspects, and to ask someone this young to figure that all out on their own and then go to someone, I think is just so stupid. I mean, I was really never taught to go out and get connections. I mean, LinkedIn is something that I've used, but I think there's so many other ways to connect with people who can help you out in your journey. And the only reason, again, that I was able to succeed in some of my entrepreneurial endeavors is purely because of the connections I've made. And most of my connections I've made, honestly, are not through LinkedIn. And we can talk about that too. But then looking back at my college career, like I said, I am taking my CPA and just finished. It's so funny because I look back when I started the CPA and I'm happy I took it, but I don't know what I'll do with it. And I think I did it mostly to put something else behind my name, but it's crazy to think about because the time, the effort, the financial cost that it took to get this thing behind my name, I don't know if it's going to be worth it. I think it could be in a certain sense, but I don't think I'm going to use it. And I think that plays along with the college journey. I mean, like I said, I don't think you need to succeed with college or even high school. I think it's much more of what is your work ethic like? What is your mindset like? Because you can be the smartest person in the world. I mean, after high school, I actually did okay in college, which again, no one thought probably, but that my base knowledge did not help me honestly do anything that I've done. I mean, sure, it helped me a little bit with certain financial things, but literally nothing that I learned helped me with a hail company I'm working on and the coffee app. And those are the two biggest things I've done. But really what helped me was learning a good work ethic, which I think my family has instilled in me, and also the dyslexia and being just a collegiate athlete, but just the mindset too. Because again, a big thing is in college, they talk about these failures, and I don't think they really stress enough what a failure is, because I can list off many, even my sophomore year. I remember getting an email back from certain people about the app idea that I had for this coffee thing. And they said, just stop, don't do anything with this. It's not going to be anything. And I didn't work on it for 2 months after that, because I really was like, okay, I'm just done. My professors don't think this is a good idea. And you know what? After that 2 months, I finally decided I'm going to get this thing out there and we're going to roll with it. And it's now getting a bunch of offers from, even Starbucks has reached out to me asking me, would you be willing to sell this app? And it's just weird, because I mean, literally 2 or 3 years ago, people were telling me that this was not going to be a reality and just stop. And I think that's, again, just one of those things where you just have to honestly have that right mindset. If you want to do something, you can go out and do it, but it's going to take you time. It's not this 40-hour-a-week thing where you get home after a long day at 5 o'clock and you just sit down and relax. I mean, that's not what it takes to be successful. You're going to have to get up at 5 a.m. You're going to have to go to bed at 1 a.m. because you have to finish things. I mean, I don't think people realize that. And if you do realize that, I think you have a good opportunity to succeed.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, and that, thank you for all that like context and information. To that last point, it sounds like, you've had a bit of adversity there. And like, obviously, you have those early mornings and those late nights and people telling you no. If that's the case, well, why didn't you stop? What propelled you forward? What pushed you? What drives you?
Yeah, and like I said, I did stop for about 2 months, and this was my first like big project. And I look back at that and me stopping, and I think about why I did it. And I think I honestly did it because I was just so fed up with hearing what I could and couldn't do, and the path I was taking was too risky. And my professors were saying that you should just stick with finishing your degree and getting your CPA, doing that, and then making this your side project. And I'll tell you right now that if you really want something to be successful, it has to be more than a side project. You can do it on the side, but it has to be more than just your quote unquote side project. And after that 2-month break, I don't really know what happened, honestly. I just decided, I'm not going to let these guys tell me what to do. I think I was fed up a little bit with one professor that is honestly just kind of a grumpy dude. And I respect him a lot because he's a brilliant man, but just a lot of negativity. And I let that get to me, and that's why I stopped. A big reason why I stopped. But after that little bit, I continued, mostly because I wanted to prove them wrong, but also prove myself that I could create something. Because I think the most rewarding feeling after finishing something like that, or a company, is just watching it tick. I mean, it is so fun to watch a business, a company, whatever it is, tick that you've created. At least I love it. It's my favorite part about what I do. But after that, I really worked hard with a developer. It took a while. I mean, two years later is when the app actually got its first beta stage, and I was able to release it to certain coffee houses. And then a year after that, which is basically present time, the app is fully ready to be released. And for those of you who don't know how releasing an app works, there's just this long timeline of, you can't just like, once it's done, you can't just release it to the App Store. It takes a little bit. But honestly, it's again all about you gotta create your own destiny. You can't let other people tell you what to do. If I did, I would have stopped way even before the first time I stopped. I mean, literally every turn, people said that it was a stupid idea or just not worth it. And you know what? Even through other things, and that's just people telling you, but there's going to be so many other deal breakers in your mind that you're like, is it worth it after this point? And you just gotta just have that right mindset and do it. I mean, you can think of a million reasons why not to do something, but what's that one reason to do something? That's really, I think, what you have to tone in on.
Yeah. I mean, it's that it's that try me attitude, not that why me attitude, you know? You're
Totally.
like there's always a million reasons in one to not do something. And to bring it back to a point you made earlier, and like this is something that I really love, and it's been stuck in my head for the last couple of months. But you mentioned something about college teaching like somewhat of the more safe or secure route, and like, you know, telling you to like take your time with things and make sure everything's set up. And there's this Elon Musk quote that I think is really profound, and it's stop being patient, stop being patient and start trying to figure out how you can accomplish your 10-year goals in 6 months. It's like, yeah, you'll probably fail. You might not be successful, but you'll be a lot farther along than if you just sat around. And I think that, you know, this really does prove your point there. Exactly. So like, dude, that's a fantastic rap sheet story. I don't know. Silas, I don't know if you want to add anything, but like, to your point there, you know, create your own destiny, write your own ticket to success, however you want to say that. That's what we're all about here, you know, and helping young entrepreneurial types, young professionals, right, to live their 20s deliberately. So what would you say is like the key? What would you really like say one of the key lessons that every 20-year-old should be knowing, living out every single day? Like if there's one pivotal thing, like do you have something that comes to mind?
Yeah, let me go back before I answer that, to just, again, your point on saying that college does teach you the much more safe route to go. And I mean, that was definitely my case. Maybe other people have different roads in college, but yeah, like you said, I don't think so either, but who knows?
We're not anti-college here, but a lot of us, like the Praxis community, like we're very, like a lot of us will go to college and then go to Praxis or drop out of college. Like it's just kind of like a community. So you can say that stuff. Don't worry about it.
Totally. And you know what's crazy? I mean, if I didn't go to college right now, I'm pretty certain I'm pretty certain that I would still be exactly where I am right now. I mean, really, it taught me little things that were very useful in what I'm doing, but I could have learned it on my own. I mean, really, which is just crazy to think about. And sure, I'm not really going into what I studied, and if I did, maybe I would use it more. But again, to go back to that, there's just so many things that they told me to be passive about instead of aggressive about. And sure, there's times to play certain things safe, and you sometimes have to work that out on your own. But you shouldn't be living your life just waiting for the perfect opportunity, because that opportunity is never going to come. It's really not. I mean, people think that, I mean, even some of my friends, I've talked to them about certain entrepreneurs that have made it really well, like Elon Musk, and they just talk about some of the really fortunate opportunities he had and how he got them. But you know what? The only reason he got those opportunities were purely because he made them happen for himself. You might not see that on the surface, but I can guarantee you this guy didn't just wake up one day, get something handed to him, and then boom, that's how it happened. This dude put in the time and I don't know how much work to make that company what it is today. I mean, he's, 20 billion away from being the richest person in the planet now. I mean, that's truly remarkable. But
And well, that mentality right there that you're talking about, that's a freaking disease, to sit there and look at people like, and that's, from what I understand, that's something that's a little newer too, to this generation then, where they're like, they look at someone successful instead of being like, oh, that's awesome. Good for you. How do I copy that? How do I emulate that? How can I do that? This is America after all. And instead of doing that, they're like, nah, he's just lucky. Oh, he just has that successful gene, or, oh, he's just part of a different clan or group. And you're like, no, dude. We're all freaking cut out of the same cloth.
And you know what scares me more about that? It scares me because I totally agree with you, but I think there's also another mindset out there that, you know, this guy has all this stuff because he's just lucky. He doesn't deserve it. Let's take it and distribute this. I mean, that mindset, and I know that's more political, but that mindset is, I just think, so dangerous to America at its core, just because, I mean, once we start talking about that, I can guarantee you, a lot of people in my situation will just throw their hands and be like, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore. Is it worth it? If I literally get everything taken that I put my 80 hours a week in, I can guarantee you that's going to happen.
But even like, and on that, the luck, oh, he's so lucky, let's just take him away. He's so greedy, he doesn't need all of that. Dude, you don't need all of that. Go work for your own stuff. Like, how freaking greedy are you that you see someone's success and you just want to take it from them because you don't want to get off your ass? Like Goya.
Oh yeah. No, totally. I mean, totally. It's a great example. Even, I mean, I love, especially in our current political generation where, everyone, I mean, I just remember when Trump became president, everyone bashed him for getting this $1 million from his father. And sure, that's a lot of money, but let's talk about if I got $1 million or you got $1 million, I would bet that none of us could do what Trump did as fast as he did. I mean, it's just certain things like that. And they think that like, oh, if I had $1 million, I could make that my $10 billion company like that too. And
what do you do with your stimulus check? Oh, wait, that's right. You go blow it on Victoria's Secret or you spend it on the PS5. Yeah, you wouldn't do jack with $1 million. You blow it faster than snorting it up your nose.
Go look it up. But TV sales went up by 43% the month the stimulus check started to roll out. I mean, it's stuff like that. And you know what? I will even admit right now that in college, I think one of the biggest faults, and by the way, I think you should all have a good time and take time to do things you enjoy. But I played a lot of video games in college, like too much, to a point where it was just a time waster. And I look back at that and I just know how easy it would be, or it would have been, even now. I mean, if I had just a bunch of games sitting by me, I would 100% play them. And I know that, and that's why I have to be very careful at what I let in my room or the space that I work, because I just get distracted so easily. But I just know that, there were multiple days in that 2 months that I didn't work on my projects that I went home and I was like, oh, I'm going to do this tomorrow. I'm going to go play some video games. And I just wasted 5 hours playing video games. When if I would have put all that time into the app, I could have made it happen so much faster. And I think people never actually get out of that phase though, whether it's video games or sports or reading books. I mean, it can be so many different things, but I mean, it's just such an easy trap to fall into.
Yeah, absolutely. And, kind of to tie it back in, one of my biggest peeves, this is going to tie the college thing in with what we're doing here with, living deliberately. But one of my biggest peeves with college is for most people, it's just postponing the acceptance of responsibility for another 4 years. They're just kind of they're like, oh, I have 4 more years. This time I've done my parents over my shoulder so I can do whatever I want. And so yeah, no, it's just blows my mind. But yeah, no, it's all tying that in with what the Deliberate Zoomer is all about. How do you live your 20s deliberately? I mean, you're doing pretty successful so far. So what's your sauce? What's your secret sauce? What makes it?
I mean, honestly, I will tell you right now, I think a big thing is getting in the right mindset when you wake up. I mean, I can 100% vouch for a little thing like making your bed every morning. And it's not just because it's not just because you're doing it to make your room clean but it's to do it to accomplish something in that morning, get your headspace in the right. I read my Bibles in the morning. That's when I get my time in, because I think I'm so much more awake, and just getting some of those things in my brain early and starting my day off well honestly propels my day so much better. And maybe that's not Bible reading for some of you. Maybe it's reading different books, or even just getting up and doing a couple simple tasks. I mean, whatever that is, do it. Because I can tell you, when there were 2 really stages in my life. There's one stage where I would get up 10 minutes before I had to do anything and just rush out the door, get to class, whatever. I mean, I think everyone had that in college. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I can guarantee you, at least from myself, I know that those days, just I was tired all day. I never really felt into it, as opposed to getting up, making my bed, getting a nice breakfast in me, reading the Bible. It put me in such a good mindset. And I think that's so important for a day, because again, as I said earlier, and I think we all agree on, life is going to throw you some lemons and you're not going to be able to avoid them. And to start off on a good day and then take a hit from one of those, it will be much more sustainable than or it will be less sustainable if you would get up, have a good day, and take one. I mean, I think I started living differently this way my junior year of college. And honestly, that's when everything started to actually tick. That's also when I got rid of other things. I mean, just time wasting is just such a hard thing to get rid of in your life. And I don't know if you guys even know how much time you spend on your phone. I mean, I have a lock on my phone because I know in college, my time was between 5 and 6 hours a day. And that seems like so much, but I know certain people that are in the 9 hours or 12 hours a day. And that's just from looking at your text. I mean, it really does just tick up like that, but this is all time that you're wasting. It's the cost value of time. I mean, your time should be much more valuable to you than you just wasting that time on your phone. And I mean, I just think the biggest thing, especially for our generation, is to be so careful with this digital age, because whether it is video games or scrolling on your phone or watching Netflix for hours, I mean, it's all right on our fingertips. And I think that encompasses a whole new challenge, especially for our generation. And that's why you have to do certain things. Like I have a 5-hour lock on my phone, so I can't go over 5 hours. And even that I think is a lot. And I don't normally reach that, but it's just those kind of things. I mean, so my advice would be to you guys is you all know what pulls you into those directions, whether it is anything that I talked about, like video games or your phone. I mean, you just have to really work on yourself to push those things out, but then also to start your day off the right foot, because those little things will 100% propel you to different levels that I don't think any of you thought were possible. And like I said, the only reason that my work ethic and my performance, everything got better was because of just that little exercise of getting up, making my bed, doing some of those little things, and just getting ready for the day.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Silas, you're up.
What do you say to people? Because I know we talk a lot about, I think all three of us are pretty entrepreneurial people here, but what do you say to people who aren't necessarily trying to create some kind of business, or they're just trying to find the purpose in their life, right? And I think that one part of the main reason I started this podcast was to help people to find that motivation. So have you found kind of what motivates you? And then do you have tips on how other people can find that, even for those who are not entrepreneurs, how can they help to figure out what that motivation is?
Yeah, totally. So I'll answer that in two ways, because I think there's one main one for me, and then there's a business side of me that also could answer that question. But the main one, and I think this really came into play my sophomore year of college. Honestly, a lot of my life transformation happened in college, not because of college, but just I think because of the people I was around. But this one specifically deals with my swimming career. And I think one thing that I really took hold of in college was my faith, primarily because it was being attacked so much on so many different sides in college. And I will tell you right now that I thought I was going to go into college and be like the person that was radiating off onto others. But in fact, I was the one that went into college and sucked all that stuff in instead of what I was hoping for. And my sophomore year, after my freshman year, a lot of things didn't go necessarily right in my faith side of my life. And my sophomore year, I read a book by C.S. Lewis called Mere Christianity. And that book talks a little bit about this idea of being, that book talks about a lot. So this is not the summary of the book, by the way, but there's one point I got out of it, and something, I think mostly because I was an athlete, but being the best possible version of yourself. And I just know my freshman year, I was a decent swimmer, and I came in and I definitely didn't work as hard as I could. And I didn't really know why I should. Like, I was having fun. I was doing really good, even though I wasn't working that hard. I was just having a good time. My sophomore year, that changed a little bit, because I realized, you know what, I'm not doing this for myself. I'm supposed to be the best version of myself, not to put myself on a pedestal, but to be able to have Christ live through me through that and give him the glory through that. So transferring that then to my business life, I think, and even my time wasting. I mean, do I think my 4 hours of video games honored or did anything to glorify his kingdom? I don't think so. I mean, I really don't. But do I think that maybe the 4 hours that I spent building this app or this other company, this weather company, do I think that that could? I 100% do in multiple ways. So I think that's the number one thing is for me, just being the best possible version, not for myself, but to glorify the Lord Jesus in that. But then also, even if you're not a Christian, I think there's multiple reasons why you want to be the best possible version of yourself. I mean, I look at so many people and they're just so stagnant in their life, and that's nothing negative towards them. I mean, I think some people like that. They just want to be kind of in this place where, you know, they might not have that much financial wealth, or maybe they don't have to work that much, and they like that. They don't want more, and that's fine. I mean, I know a couple of people like that. I also know people who are very opposite, who want a lot more but aren't willing to put the time in. And my biggest encouragement would just be tell those people that, you know what, you really can have more. It's not, I mean, there's nothing about me that makes me just this person who was able to succeed more than other people, other than putting the time in and the work in. And I think that's what just people have to understand. I mean, you have to put the time and work in, because if you don't, you're going to be that person who always wants more, whether that is money or whether that's maybe even social stature, whatever it is. It's just not going to come at that flip of the switch that a lot of people think it is. It's going to take a lot of time. And I can guarantee too, I mean, like I said, that my first successful thing didn't really happen until a year ago. And even, I mean, it's still happening. So I wouldn't even say that it's successful at this point. I mean, it's done well, but that's a 4.5, almost 5-year journey. And I mean, like I said, I went through a bunch of hardships through that. I was told that none of this would work, and you just can't let that stuff get to you. I mean, like I said, you just have to honestly really just take it by the horns, like you said, and go with it, because you're going to get knocked down.
Mm-hmm. For the people, because I know we obviously have kind of gone around this topic a bit as with college, right? You said that you weren't necessarily sure if you'd be in any different place, but obviously college had some kind of, during college you had a lot of transformation. What would you, I guess, how would you give advice to somebody who's not sure if they want to go to college right now? Like, they're pretty bright, they aren't sure what they want, you know, how would you help them to maybe offer some advice to them on how to decide whether or not they should go, or maybe pursue a different route?
Totally. I mean, I think one big thing with college is it depends what you want to do with your life. Honestly, it really does. College will help you in many ways. I mean, there's a part of me that loves college, and there's another part of me that doesn't love college. College can help you in many ways. And if you want to, even like me, if you want to go into something like accounting, or I mean, not even, I'm just specifically talking about business, but if we want to go into like medical or any of those kind of sociology, psychology, teaching, I mean, you do need a college degree, and it will help you. But I also think there's another side of it, that if you don't know what you want to do, and you really have no clue, and you're just going to college because people are telling you to, I think that's also hard, because sometimes family tells you to, which is hard to tell them that you don't want to, because I feel like college at this point in time is like, you need college or else you're nobody. But
we're a bunch of nobodies. So sorry.
I know, exactly, right. And I mean, I think it really does depend what you want, because if you don't know, I don't think that college is necessarily the best route to take right away. I mean, I don't know the exact stat, but I know it's a pretty crazy number about how many people graduate with a certain degree because they didn't know what they wanted to do. And then a year later, they're in the workforce and they are doing nothing with their degree. I really don't know what that number is, but I'm pretty sure it's about 50%.
I guarantee no college wants you to see that number too, because that's like the majority of people I talk to that went to college. They're like, they don't use their degree. You got your CPA. Like you said, you're probably never going to use it. And it's the name of the game.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. It is the name of the game. So again, I think my advice would be is if you know what you're doing, and you need college for it, go do it. I mean, you should do it rather than later if you do know what you're doing, because I think it's also hard to do something like college later in life. I know a lot of people that have done it. I just know it also takes later. What you're doing, and you have certain ideas that maybe college won't help you out at that point, or maybe you really don't have anything and you're just looking for a job. I'm really a big fan of a gap year too, and maybe pushing off college for a little bit. I like the thought of it. I do think, again, it's a little dangerous if you get into the wrong mindset, because people, again, can just become so stagnant in where they are. But I do think that, I mean, it is a big financial hurdle paying for college. I mean, that's nothing small either. That's another side of it. If you're not financially ready for college, don't do it. I mean, there's just so many reasons not to do it, but there are some good reasons to do it too. So I think it really does depend on your specific, just life story. I mean, yeah, if anyone has questions too, I mean, I love to talk through it with them, but yeah, I really do think that there's a lot of reasons to do it, and there's some reasons not to.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think you're right there. So I have a question for you. Let's paint a picture here. Let's say I'm a 23-year-old. I just graduated college, and a little bit ago, I'm getting comfortable with like a first role or a job that I could see myself doing, and whatever, like maybe I'm a couple of years out, whatever. But the point is, because you've mentioned this a few times now, I'm stagnant. And I'm sitting here and I'm becoming the same person. I'm just doing the same thing day in and day out. There's no growth. Nothing's changing. Come home from my 9 to 5. I play my video games. I drink a beer, order some pizza. And that's my life. So what do you say to those people out there who can relate to that a little bit? The ones who are stagnant, stuck in place, the ones who, they're not living to that full potential. What would you say to them, or what advice would you give?
Well, I mean, the first question I would definitely ask is, are you happy with it? Because if you're happy with it, it's going to be very hard for me or anyone, or even yourself, to convince you to do more. I mean, I know a couple of people in my life that work their 36-hour job. They've done it since college, haven't really moved up anywhere, and they're fine with it. They don't really care. If that's you, great. But if it's not you, and you want more, don't know how to get to that point, you are stagnant, like you're saying. I think the biggest reason I was stagnant was because, like I said, these time wasters I had. Because I mean, I had so many ideas in my head of what I wanted to do. There's so many, but what stopped me from doing those things were time wasters in my life. I mean, sports was a big one. Video games was a huge one. I mean, that was probably the biggest one. And I mean, I still play video games sometimes. It's maybe once, I don't even know how much. I mean, I used to be able to tell you that I would play like 3 or 4 hours a day. And that was a big reason why I was stagnant in what I did. And I think that's just it might not be video games for everyone, like I said, but you just need to really look at your life and what you are spending your time on, and ask yourself, is this what I want to be doing? Do I want more? Because if you want more, you're going to have to go out and get it. You're not going to be able to push it off for tomorrow or next year or next month, because I hate to break it to you, but when tomorrow comes, you're going to push it off another day. And when 2022 comes, it's going to be 2025 before you know it. It's just, and by the way, this is something hard. I mean, I still struggle with certain things for wasting time. I think it's so easy to get into maybe your happy place and just want to do what you want to do. I mean, I can relate. I'm a night owl. I love staying up till 1 or 2 a.m. doing whatever. I don't do that anymore, because instead I get up earlier and get my day going right. And it's just those little things, and they might not seem like a lot, but they are crucial to being a successful person.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Okay, so I think that that's pretty. I really appreciate all of the kind of overview and the different directions we've gone with this. I think it is very helpful to have somebody with your perspective who obviously is doing pretty well with their entrepreneurial ventures, but also has completed college. So it's really helpful. I would maybe kind of to wrap things up here, maybe two things. What are some of your top book recommendations? And maybe what would be some advice or some really short advice to yourself when you were younger or to somebody else who's just getting out of high school at this point?
Okay. So I'm gonna actually I have a book list and I update it all the time. It's funny. I used to never read because I quite literally couldn't read. Um, and then later on, I actually in 2018, so that's not even that long ago, but I had this goal to read one book a month, and I actually got that goal done. And then in 2019, it was 2 books a month, and got that done too. And the only reason I did get it done, by the way, I would read some of them, but I also would listen to some on Audible. And if you don't know what Audible is, go learn what Audible is. It's basically a program that reads you books, and you can almost get any book out there. But I mean, that's books were also fundamental in my life. But let me pull those up for you. But as far as giving a young person advice, I would say the biggest things are just learn that work ethic, learn how to work hard. You might get home one day after school and go turn on your computer or your Xbox. Think about something else you could do instead of that. Because if you start young, I mean, again, I didn't do any of this stuff until I was in college. But if you start young, you can train yourself to do certain things. I mean, I know almost all you guys could go find. Maybe it's just a teller at a bank, or literally maybe you'd be working fast food. I mean, you can all go find things that you can start this journey on being successful. But it really does start with the work ethic. Because if you don't have the work ethic and you're not willing to put the time in, so many of these things won't happen. So, I mean, my advice to them would be just take advantage of the time you have. Time flies. I mean, I can't believe where I am right now. I really feel like it was yesterday and I was just walking into college with this whole idea of what I wanted to do and become. And that has completely changed, but also it feels like that was yesterday, but it was almost 6 years ago. And wow, it's more, it's like 7 years ago. I mean, it's crazy. So just take advantage of the time you have and really be careful of what you're spending your time on. That's not to say you can never play video games. I mean, go have a good time, but also really focus on what you want to do and make it happen. Because if you don't make it happen, it just won't happen.
I think one thing while you're looking that up to add maybe to that is I've seen a lot of friends of my own, people who they're really intelligent people and they do want something more out of life. They're just really searching for something. And they're doing that. They're doing what the world shows them as, like, oh, you're having a good time, you're relaxing, you're watching Netflix, whatever. But really, you get so much fulfillment from learning and from setting an hour aside to listen to a book. You can listen, if you're really impatient like me, you can listen on Audible at like 2x speed as long as you can keep up, right? It's like you can get through a book just like that. I can't tell you how many flights I've listened to an entire book on just because I listened to it quickly. So it's really rewarding when you start investing in yourself, which is what we talked about in our last episode.
And that's like just a little piece of, because think about it. If you are on a plane, I mean, most planes now have a TV screen on them and you can just flip on a movie like that. Is that movie really going to benefit you? Probably not. But if you go listen to a book or something, do you think you'll get knowledge from that? 100%. I know what's the guy's name on YouTube? This was a couple years back. I was like, thank you. Books are knowledge. And I agree with part of that, but like, I disagree with a lot of what that guy does. Yeah, exactly. But he does have, in that slim nugget of knowledge, he is true. Books are knowledge and they will help you succeed in life. So I just pulled up my list and I actually have my list sorted into 3 different areas. One is a faith list, the other is a business, and then another one is just a fantasy list. I'm a big Star Wars fan, so I have read a bunch of the Star Wars books. So that's really where that list is from. But I'm going to stick with business here. And the number one book I think that has helped me is How to Win Friends and Influence People. I don't know if any of you, maybe you guys have both read it. Great book by Dale Carnegie. But yes, and I mean, really, I read that my sophomore year, and that book was very influential in the way I thought, but also just the way I think about normal things. I mean, everyday things. I mean, it really does change your thought process. Another one that I've loved is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's another great one. And then the third one I'll give you is a one I actually just read. And maybe some of you guys have read it, but I read it over quarantine actually. But Good to Great, why some companies make that leap and others don't. I even have to look at the author. That's pretty bad, but it's James C. Collins. Anyways, that book is also a great book. Like I said, never read it before quarantine, but I mean, those three books I think definitely pack a lot of knowledge in them. But yeah, I mean, if you are looking for some good reads and some reads that I can guarantee you will benefit you in the future, those three books will definitely have an impact.
For sure. Wonderful. Yeah, I think those books are such great. I really do like How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think it's one of those books where you read it once, even if you're not really paying attention that much, it totally changes how you look at life. Like, I haven't reread it. I've told myself I was going to reread it, but I still remember kind of how the whole mindset works. So, but no, that's awesome. Is there anything you wanted to add, Michael, at the end here, kind of to wrap things up?
No, man, I was just gonna 3 solid books. I love how the order that you had them into was like great, because one's interpersonal relationships, the next is how you think about your finances and your success and your potentials, and then Good to Great is just execution upon that. So it's awesome how you worded that out. I do have to ask, if people listen to this and they want to get in contact with you, how do we do that?
I mean, if you want to, you can. I mean, so I do have a LinkedIn, and it's pretty crazy because I really don't use LinkedIn much. And I will say LinkedIn is a great tool that I have not taken advantage as much as I should. But you can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Garrett Richetto. It's GarrettRichetto. You can also email me at richettogarrett@gmail.com. That's probably the best way to get to me if you have questions or really anything that you'd like to ask me, whether it's about my journey with battling dyslexia or whether it's my journey to faith or business. I mean, I will be happy to talk to anyone on those things. Those are the best 2 ways, though.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much again for being on the show today, Gary. We really appreciate it. And we hope to see you again in the future and see how things go, and hopefully have some good success stories with your coffee app in the future here.
Sounds good. Hopefully.
Yep. Thanks so much.